My guest is called Charlotte Meerstadt, and she is the founder and CEO of Fram Energy. So for anybody in industry that hasn't met you yet, Charlotte, I'd love for you to introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity to be on your podcast today, Sarah, and I'm very excited for this conversation. So I'm Charlotte, I'm from the Netherlands. My background is as a civil engineer, spent some time working on energy infrastructure at one of the Netherlands national labs and Google X, and then launched Fram Energy after graduating from business school at Stanford. And I started the company based on my own experiences. I own an apartment back in Amsterdam, and I put solar panels on the roof when I lived there. And the moment I moved to the US and that became a tenant occupied apartment, it was from one day to the next impossible to still get any financial value from the solar panels because they just started sponsoring my tenants' energy bills. And I was really missing any kind of tool that allowed me as the landlord, or as anyone really, to sell power to someone else, in this case my tenants. And that was really the origin story for finding this problem space and building Fram Energy.
Amazing. I love it when people have a personal anecdote like that. It just makes the mission so much more tangible. And so you've been at this for the last 3 years now. So you've built a small team around you, your pre-seed stages at the moment. So talk me through what the company looks like and essentially the progress you've been making these last 3 years.
Yeah, so started the company 2.5 years ago, raised a pre-seed round. And what we really do at Fram Energy is build this tool that allows anyone to sell power to anyone. And our biggest launching market, and most of the business we're doing right now, is property owners selling power to their tenants. So the way it works is this. Currently, what is your roof doing for you? If you own CNI, multifamily, what is your roof doing for you right now? Probably it's annoying to replace it every 20 years, but likely the majority of it is sitting idle. And our tool essentially enables you to turn your roof into a power plant, fill it to the max with solar, and sell all of that power, usually to your on-site tenants. And that is really a game changer because it adds NOI to the bottom line for the property owner while offering this really compelling amenity of cheaper electricity and clean power to the various types of on-site tenants that we serve. So your question also went into the progress up to now. So at this point in time, we're sending out thousands of energy bills every month, grew super rapidly, especially last year. And I think I've been building a great name for ourselves as a team you can trust, super high accuracy, very transparent for all the stakeholders. Everyone can access the data we used, everyone can access the calculations we did. And we're also very focused on really excellent communication and service towards the tenants because they're really the source of revenue in this whole business model. If they aren't empowered and educated, it'll be much more difficult to successfully get them to participate in all this.
You know, I doubt you will mind me saying this, but naturally you guys are small. You're not necessarily like a household name in the market at the moment. But one thing that I find compelling about Fram is you're actually getting a lot of traction in the market through your reputation. So proving that you can be a lean and a nimble startup that doesn't necessarily pump tons into their GTM function just yet, but you've made sure that you've got your product right. And through that has meant that you've got a lot of organic growth by people coming to you and saying, hey, I hear what you're doing is a lot more accurate than a more well-known name in the industry. So talk to me a bit more about like how you've managed to build that brand for yourselves and why having that product-led approach has actually benefited you in the long and the short term.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to our fantastic team and culture being just really focused on delivering for our customers. And I think especially in the early stages, we very much just built in one room, literally sometimes on site in one room with our early customers. And problems that they just were not able to get fixed in the market right now, and it seemed really hard to solve because we were just seeing them use whatever prototype we built. I think we were really effectively able to build technology that then scaled really well to the needs of the rest of the market. And this is always any kind of, it sounds like a design partnership. It was paying customers, but just working with them really intensively. There's always this risk of like, are we overfitting to some of the needs of these early customers? But it turned out that their needs kind of proactively solved for needs that newer customers didn't even know that they were going to have. So I think building like that closely in tandem with our customers, and our team is also exceptionally dedicated to delivering for our customers. We definitely don't have a culture where people are pushed to like stay super late and grind if there's not like a reason to do it, but people will stay up until 2 a.m. occasionally because we promised something and it just has to be delivered tomorrow. And if that truly is important and matters, like our team is just laser focused on always hitting the mark for those early customers.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot to be said. I mean, obviously we're here on this podcast, web series, whatever we want to call it, to be hyping up the women in PropTech and like some of the amazing female leaders that are not necessarily as well known in PropTech or just haven't really been able to, you know, tell their success stories in a manner like this before. So I think there's always something to be said about leadership and superpowers behind you and behind founders like yourself that, you know, you have to instill a certain level of ambition behind these early hires. You know, you won't mind me saying, but these product people or these engineers, they could be working for Meta, they could be working for some of these big household corporates on massive salaries with a massive benefits package package, but they choose to do something more mission driven, and they choose to work for founders such as yourself. So I think, whether this is a question or whether this is just a statement from me, just sort of saying, there's definitely going to be a lot of female founders like you that are likely undervalued or underrepresented in the market at the moment in PropTech. We don't have the visibility I think we deserve, but it's a kudos to you in terms of your leadership and what your superpowers must be in-house to attract that top talent at somewhere that quite often, more often than not, is seen as more of a risk in their next move in their career.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that really nicely segues into this under-highlighted leadership and entrepreneur superpower that I see, which is trust, building trust, retaining trust. I think the public founder narrative really focuses on hustle and your ingenuity and finding the right product and having a big vision. But at the end of the day, to me, what a lot of the founder journey has been is constantly convincing different stakeholders to take almost this irrational leap with me. So you were referencing the early team, and you're super right. Everyone on our team is very talented and could be making more money and having a more cushy life at one of these big tech or other firms. So you're telling them like, hey, join me in this boat and we're going to build it together, and it's going to be super worthwhile in many ways. In the same way, when you have your very first investors, for me, it was literally me, a deck, and a big market. No signed customers, literally no real product. You're also telling them, like, hey, you have all these investment opportunities, but this is what's going to return your fund. And it is a little irrational, but, you build that trust with them. And, of course, super important in sales that the customer, by spending time with you, starts to feel like, okay, even though there's more proven solutions, I feel like this team, when it gets rough, is really going to have my back. And I think that is trust as well. So one of the most cited studies on trust is from Harvard Business Review by Francis Ray and Ann Morris. And it really breaks up trust into 3 pillars. So authenticity, is this person communicating with you authentically? Logic, I think this one feels important to me as well. Like the others are in a certain way, I feel like they come naturally, but I've been able to cultivate them in this role, which is great. But this second logic one is really continuously showing up with just world-class knowledge and thinking about their problems. And the final one is empathy. And I think, again, the call that these early customers and investors and team members are making is this team and is this person going to show up in a way that optimizes for me and that honors our agreements when things get rough. So yeah, I think that trust is a huge leadership superpower, and we should all be talking about it more and finding cool ways to grow the ways in which we authentically grow our capabilities to build more trust.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me today, and I'm glad that more people are now going to be aware of the amazing work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. Back at you. And I love that you're building this platform to highlight so many more women doing cool stuff and building very needed products in this industry.
Amazing. Thanks, Charlotte. It was great to talk.